Hey everyone, I want to welcome you and thank you for taking your time out of your day to be here. I know how hard it is to find time when you're trying to run a business. You got to keep your clients happy, manage your crew, and still have something left for your family. And here's the weekend, and you're probably taking a little time from your family or maybe catch up work with your crew and or for yourself. And I just want to say thank you, and I will work to make sure that this is valuable for you. What's my story? So I started my landscaping business like a lot of people. I was willing to outwork the competition, and I thought if I just fill my calendar, right, the money's going to take care of itself. And for a while, it looked like it was working. I was booked solid. I was working log days, and jobs just kept coming in. But month after month, I would look at my numbers, and there was nothing left. I couldn't pay myself consistently. I couldn't take a vacation. And every time a piece of equipment broke, it was a crisis. Every payroll was tight. Every job that ran over meant I was working for free. And the worst part, it wasn't the money. It was looking at my family and feeling like I was letting them down, even though I was working as hard as I could. If you've ever felt that way, like you're working too hard to feel so stuck, you're not alone. There are a lot of landscapers who get trapped in this cycle because they're guessing on pricing. They're undercharging without realizing it, and they don't have a system to know if they're actually profitable. It's frustrating, it's exhausting, and it can make you wonder if you're even cut out for this. The truth is, you can't outwork bad pricing. If your pricing is wrong, nothing else you do will fix the stress that you're feeling right now. You can't market your way out of it. You can't hire your way out of it. You can't grow your way out of it. Pricing is the foundation that's going to allow you to take control, pay yourself, pay your crew, and actually grow your business. So today, I'm going to teach you the basics of how to price your service correctly so that you can stop guessing and start building a profitable business. We're going to cover the core pieces that you need to set a price that covers your costs, pays you, and leaves room for profit. But I'm also going to show you what else you'll need to dial in beyond pricing. If you want to scale and build a business that runs without you being on every job, then this is the starting point, but it's not the finish line. So grab a notebook, and if you happen to have brought your overhead numbers and your labor rates, your profit margin goals and production hours, keep those handy. We're going to put those to use in a few minutes so that you can walk away with a real plan you can put to work immediately. So let's get started. Okay, so these are some screenshots, right, of things on groups. And let's be honest, a lot of landscapers, they figure out their pricing by guessing or copying what the competition is charging. They go on Facebook groups, they post a picture of a yard and ask, what would you charge for this? And then they get 30 different answers from 30 different people in 30 different markets with different expenses, different crews, and different goals. So they pick a number that sounds fair, hoping it's going to cover their costs and maybe leave something for them at the end of the month. This is one of the biggest reasons that landscapers are staying stuck. Let me give you a quick example. If someone told you that they charge $80 per hour, so you think that sounds good, I'll charge that too. What you're not seeing is that that person is in production 35 hours per week. In other words, 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, maybe. At $80 an hour, they're generating $2,800 a week. But if you're new and you're maybe a little inefficient and you're only in production for 30 hours per week, that same $80 an hour, you're only generating 2,400. That's a $400 difference per week or $1,600 a month that you're missing, and you're doing the same amount of physical work. That gap can be the difference between being profitable and being broke. What happens without clear pricing? Well, when you don't have clear, calculated pricing, these things are going to happen. You're going to work for free without realizing it. You'll think that you're making money, but by the time you pay your crews or cover expenses and buy gas for the mowers, there's nothing left for you. You burn out while staying broke. You work longer hours, take on more jobs, and you're hoping that the volume will fix it. In other words, if you just do more work, you'll have it, but it doesn't. And you get more tired without getting ahead. And then you can't confidently hire or invest in growth. You're afraid to hire help because you're not sure if you can afford it. And you're hesitant to invest in equipment or marketing because your cash flow is unpredictable. I've seen owners who had crews and steady work but couldn't pay themselves more than a part-time job. I've seen guys who burned out and shut down because every breakdown felt like a financial emergency. And I've seen businesses stuck for years because they couldn't afford to hire help. So the owner was stuck in the field, never able to step back and grow. And ultimately, unless you're a solo operator, you need to be able to step back and grow. But even as a solo operator, you need to have your pricing dialed in. Here's the truth. Pricing wrong doesn't just keep you from making money. It's going to keep you from building a business that can support your life. That's why getting your pricing right is the first step towards freedom in your business. And that's what we're going to start working on today. Overhead is one of the most misunderstood parts of pricing in this business. Simply put, overhead is what it costs you to run your business, whether you have a job scheduled today or not. It's not the cost of your mulch or the cost of sod for a specific job. It's not the cost of labor for mowing. It's the expense that keeps your business running in the background. What are some examples of overhead? Well, insurance on your trucks and trailers, business liability insurance, website and marketing materials, fuel for your equipment, office expenses, equipment maintenance and replacement, rent or a portion of your mortgage that you can use for your business. You can get a write-off on that, and it should be worked into your pricing. Any utilities that you're using, phone bills, annual fees for your LLC. These are just some of the costs that you pay, whether you're mowing a yard or not. And look, when I first started out, I told myself, I don't really have overhead. I was working out of my house using my personal phone and doing my own admin work in the evening. So I priced my jobs based only on the materials and labor, thinking that I was working lean. But then my vehicle broke down. I needed new blades for the mowers, and the phone bill came due, and I needed more insurance to get a bigger job that I was bidding. And suddenly I was paying for these things out of my own pocket, and every month was tight, no matter how many jobs I booked. The biggest mistake that landscapers make, and I made this with overhead, is only including what they're spending today and ignoring what they need to grow. You want to include a salary for yourself, even if you're not at the point that you can pay it to yourself yet. It needs to be built into your pricing so that when you are there, you're able to pay there. You pay it for yourself. Admin help. What type of admin help do you think you might need in 3 to 6 months? You want to work that into the pricing, even if you're not ready to pay for it yet. This could be something like your accountant even, needs to be worked in there. A bookkeeper, if you think that you're not strong enough in it, then you need help with that. Work it into your pricing. Equipment replacement. This is a common mistake. People buy equipment and then they never anticipate that it's going to break or it's going to have to be replaced, or maybe that they need to upsize. So you want to work in equipment replacement on a schedule. So what does that mean? Not that you're going to replace it every year, but let's say, you have a nice mower and you're like, this is going to last me 5 years. Let's say it's a $10,000 mower. That means $2,000 a year should be worked into your overhead to replace that equipment so that it's in your pricing. People are paying you for it and you can set it aside. Okay. So when it comes time to get that mower, you can pay cash, or even if you finance it, you've got extra money. Rent and utilities, even if you work from home, I said this earlier, your business should be covering some of that stuff. Here's the key takeaway. You have to price for the business that you're building, not just the scraps that your business has today. If you're only pricing based on what you spend now, you're always going to stay stuck. You're never going to have the money to hire help, replace equipment, or pay yourself consistently for the long term. You may be able to say, oh, I can do it right now, but it won't work consistently. I promise you, I'm right on that. When you build your overhead correctly into your pricing, you take the pressure off your personal finances, you gain stability and consistency, and you're going to create room for growth and opportunity. Pricing to cover overhead is one of the first steps in moving from being busy and broke to being busy and profitable. Before we move on, I want to give you a practical task so that you can put what you're learning into action. You'll get a recording of this so you can go back and try and get this information together. You want to get together all of your expenses. Pull your bank statements, your credit card statements, and bookkeeping records. Look for every expense related to running your business, even if it feels small. This includes insurance, fuel, marketing costs, office supplies, software subscriptions, your phone bill, and any other recurring expenses you could pay to keep your business going. Don't leave anything out. Every dollar that you spend to run your business needs to be covered in your pricing. Think about what expenses you could incur over the coming year. It's easy to only think about what you're spending today, but you need to price for the business that you're building. Ask yourself, are you planning to hire admin help or a part-time office manager? Will you need to rent a yard or a shop as you grow? Are you planning to invest in marketing to attract better clients? Even if you're not paying for these yet, if you're planning ahead and you know that you need them to grow, you build it into your pricing now. Otherwise, you'll never have enough in your margin to afford them without raising prices and risking losing clients. Look, you are going to raise your prices as you go down the road, but you don't want to raise them every time you realize there's something new that you need. It's got to be systematic. So think ahead. Make that your price for the season, or if you're going to adjust your price now, make it all the way through till the end of the season. And then in the off season, start thinking about what you need for 2026. You need to create that schedule like I was talking about, replacing equipment and vehicles or what you would like to buy. Your equipment's not going to last forever. Trucks wear out, mowers need to be replaced. And if you're not setting aside money for replacements, you'll end up in a crisis when something breaks, scrambling to find the cash or putting it on a high interest credit card. And here's how to approach it. If you want to replace that truck every 5 years, take the total cost of the truck, divide it by 5. That's the annual amount that you need to set aside. Same thing with your mowers, your edgers, your weed eaters, your blowers. The schedule that I was on was a new truck every 5 years, new lawnmower every 5 years. My handheld equipment, some was every 2, some was every 1, but I had it worked into my pricing. Once I figured out what I was doing wrong and changed the way I was doing it, I had that schedule. So if a new truck cost you 60,000, divide that by 5, and you're going to need to set aside 12,000 per year. Now I understand the truck may go up over 5 years, but still, if you're doing that, right, every year you adjust what the price of a truck is. So the first year, you said it was 60,000, you put aside 12. Then the next year it goes up to 66, so now you put like 12.5 or, whatever, you know, you put that aside, you adjust the price, you're going to be fine. You do it for all your major equipment and vehicles that you rely on in your business. And then everything needs to be converted into a yearly total. If you've got some bills that you only pay every 3 months, multiply it by 4. If you've got monthly bill, multiply it by 12. And sometimes, like insurance, might just be an annual fee, but you want to have your total. And then that way we can break it back down into your production hours. So you got to have it for the annual. Doing this work is going to give you clarity, and you'll probably find your true expenses are higher than you realized. I find this all the time. People will say to me, no, I don't have that many expenses. And when they sit down with me and I go over it with them, then they're like, holy crap, I didn't realize I was spending that much money. This is one of the biggest steps that you can take towards building a profitable business that supports you instead of draining you. So I would like you to take some time this week to gather these numbers, and you'll be able to build accurate pricing. So now that you've got a basic understanding of overhead, we need to talk about your labor costs, because this is another area where landscapers underprice without even realizing it. So let's dig into that next. Another big pricing mistake that I see, like I just said a moment ago, and one I made early on, is thinking that labor cost is just the hourly wage that you're paying your employee. Let's say you think, well, I pay my guy $20 an hour, so I'll estimate labor's at $20 an hour in my pricing. But your real labor is much higher. You've got your employee portion of payroll taxes like FICA, Medicare, Social Security. Maybe you don't realize this, but not only is it taken out of the employee's paycheck, but the employer, you, matches that on top. So for every dollar that's taken out of the employee's paycheck, you're paying another dollar on top. You've got to pay unemployment insurance at the federal and state level, workers' comp insurance, and then any benefits you offer, like paid holidays or vacation, and then downtime. When your employee is not in production, in other words, when they get to the shop with you, they're loading up the truck. They're not earning money, but that's got to be accounted for in their labor. So let's break this down. You pay your employee $20 an hour, but when you add your payroll taxes, which is approximately 7.65%, that's an additional $1.53. Your work comp, that varies, but let's say it was just an extra dollar. And then unemployment insurance, And other admin, let's say it was 50 cents an hour. Now you're already at $23.03 an hour before you've even considered downtime. Now, downtime is a hidden cost, and this is where a lot of landscapers miss the mark. I did. You're paying your employees for the entire time that they're working, which includes drive time between jobs, loading and unloading equipment, meetings or job prep, weather delays, right? But you're not billing clients for this time. You're not earning money on that time. But that has to be added in to, their labor cost. Say your employee's on the clock for 40 hours a week, but is only in production. That's mowing, installing, or working on a billable task 33 hours a week. That means that you're paying them for 40 hours, but your revenue is coming from 33 hours. To cover their full cost, you have to spread their weekly wage across the actual production hours. So if their true cost is the $23 an hour we came up with for 40 hours, that's $920 a week. 920 divided by the actual hours they're in production means that their true value is $27.88. So even though you think your cost is $20 an hour, it's really closer to 28 once you account for taxes and downtime. This is really, guys, the biggest mistake I see in pricing. When you price using just the wage or even the wage plus taxes, but ignore downtime, your pricing starts to eat into your profit. It makes you feel like you're making money on paper while you're actually losing it, and it leaves you scrambling for cash when it's time to pay your team. To price correctly, you need to know how many hours per year your employee will actually be in production. Then you divide their total annual cost by those production hours to get the real hourly cost you need to build into your pricing. When you price using this real labor burden, you stop subsidizing your employees with profit. You gain the clarity you need to price confidently. You protect your margins and your business. So I want to give a quick example here. Let's say that, like when I was based in Florida, right? I worked 52 weeks of the year, but I gave 2 weeks vacation to my people. So that means each employee was actually only in production 50 weeks of the year. They still needed to earn that 2 weeks vacation in the wages when they were out working. So I took their annual, rate 50 weeks times the number of hours that they did every week, and then divided that by their total annual cost, including their vacation. So before we move on, I want to give you another task, and this is going to help you build your pricing with confidence. You want to most landscapers underprice labor because they think it's just the hourly wage. But as we've covered, that's only part of the picture. You want to get together all the taxes, insurance, and employment rates that you would pay on your employees. All this stuff should be readily available to you if you've signed up with the IRS, gotten an FEIN, done the unemployment paperwork. If you have work comp, all these rates are available to you. They'll be in percentages, okay? The employee portion of your Social Security and Medicare, federal and state unemployment, workers' comp, and any other employment related insurance costs that you can pay. Some states have different rates, there's state taxes also. You want to account for any benefits or paid vacation. And then you also want to get these added into your employee's hourly wage, and then estimate your annual production hours. This part is key, and it's okay to guesstimate right now. Production hours are the billable hours that your employee actually works on job. It's not the total hours that they're on the clock. I want you to think about the average number of days that you and your crew are out producing work. That doesn't include drive time, doesn't include lunch breaks or shop time or anything else, just the minute that you get to the job till you're finished with it. You want to multiply that, rate of the day by the number of days you work per week, and then multiply it by the number of weeks that you work a year. So, for example, if somebody's doing 6 hours of production a day, they work 5 days a week and 45 weeks a year. That gives them 1,350 production hours per year per employee. This number is critical because it's going to tell you how many hours you have available each year to recover your employee's total annual cost and for them to recover their portion of the overhead. So take some time this week to gather those numbers and build it together. So now that you understand overhead and real labor burden, let's talk about profit and why it's not a luxury, but a necessity if you want to build a business that lasts. A lot of landscapers think that profit is what's left over It's anything that's left at the end of the month. But here's the truth. If you don't intentionally build profit into your pricing, you're never going to have it. It's not a luxury. It's what funds the growth, like new equipment, additional crews, better marketing. When I say new equipment, I'm not saying equipment replacement. I'm saying you want to start a second crew. You need profit to be able to do that. Emergencies. You could have repairs that come up that you never know, or weather delays or unexpected costs. Having a profit margin built into your pricing gives you cushion. Opportunities, jumping on a good deal for a new mower or hiring a great employee when they become available, and then avoiding instability. Without profit, businesses face instability and risk with every unforeseen event. Without profit, your business is always operating on the edge. One breakdown, one slow week, or one employee quitting can put you in a panic. Profit versus salary. Your salary is what you pay yourself for working in your business. Profit is what your business earns for taking on the risk of being in business. They're not the same. Yes, you can take a share of the profit at the end of the year if you want as a bonus, but you should have a salary set up for yourself and be working towards paying yourself a salary. The salary will cover your personal bills. The profit allows your business to grow and stay stable. When my vehicle had broke down years ago, I didn't have that profit set aside because I didn't have my pricing set up right. I had to pull from personal money to cover the repairs and also get a loan from my dad. It put me behind on bills and added stress at home. So when I started building profit into my pricing, the next time that something broke, I didn't panic. The business covered it and not my personal account. Here's something important to understand. Your pricing profit margin will not equal your end of month net profit. So if you're pricing a job at 30% profit margin, that doesn't mean that necessarily you're going to see 30% at the end of the month left in your bank. Why? Because inefficiencies, you are once you've got your pricing dialed in, you're going to start to see inefficiencies in your business that you need to adjust. Those inefficiencies, like too much time between jobs or taking too long at a job, can eat into the profit margin that you've built into your pricing. Waste, mistakes, damages that people do, like breaking a window or something. Okay, that can eat into your end of month profit. Again, downtime and weather delays, they can reduce your production hours. And not all jobs go exactly as planned. Even once I'd systemized how to do jobs, there was still jobs that would come up that would, unforeseen events would just eat into the profit. So building the profit into your pricing gives you the potential for that profit, but your operations and tracking determine if you keep it. Pricing without profit means you're bidding yourself for a job, not a business. Pricing with profit means that you're building something that can grow, weather the challenges, and eventually operate without you having to be on every job. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about production hours and why understanding them is key to ensuring your pricing actually aligns with your real business. We've covered the overhead, the labor burden, and the importance of profit. Now it's time to tie them together with something that a lot of landscapers overlook, and that's production hours. If you don't know how many hours you can actually bill for, your pricing is going to be off, even if you've done everything else right. Production hours are the hours you or your crew are actively working on jobs that generate money. That could be mowing, trimming, installing sod, doing landscaping work that you're charging for. They don't include drive time, loading or unloading, rain days, shop time, lunch breaks. A lot of owners will price based on a 40-hour work week, assuming that every hour paid is an hour billed, and that's a huge mistake. The reality is your crews might work 40 hours a week, but only 30 to 33 hours of those are billable production hours. That's a 17 to 25% drop in the hours you can actually bill for. Say you calculate your labor and overhead cost, and you think that you need to charge $60 an hour to cover everything with profit. That's because maybe you based it on 40 hours billable and you had expected to generate $2,400 per week. But if you're only producing for 32 hours a week, you actually generate $1,920. That's a $480 gap every single week, or nearly $2,000 a month that you didn't account for. How do you fix this? To price it accurately, you need to track your actual production hours over a few weeks. Use your and look, you need to get, you can start with a guesstimate, then start tracking and then, dial it in And then I would encourage you to continually track it because then you can work on those inefficiencies. Let's say, you track it and you're like, hey, I'm at 6.2 production hours a day. I want to get it up to 6.5. If you're tracking it, you guys can find a way to get to that 6.5. Make yourself more efficient and you're making more money when you do that. But track your actual production hours. Use those real production hours when you're calculating your hourly rate, and then price your jobs based on what you can actually produce and not what you wish you could produce. When you know your true production hours, you're going to protect your margins. You're going to stop underpricing without realizing it. And you're going to build a business that covers your costs, pays you, and generates that profit. So now that we've got that covered, we need to track your jobs to see if your pricing holds up in the real world. And that's what we're going to dive into next. Your pricing is not set and forget. You've put in the work to set your pricing, your overhead, your true labor burden, your profit margins, and your true production hours. But here's something that you can miss. It's not set and forget. It's not a one and done exercise. This is a system that you refine over time. And you want to know if you're hitting those numbers, you should be tracking it. Once you've got the pricing out, you should know what the percentage of your pricing per hour is labor. Are you staying within that or are you going over? Because then you got a problem, right? If you're tracking it, you've got a problem. You can identify the problem and you can make changes. Maybe your pricing was off. Or maybe you've got some people that just aren't working efficiently. Okay. But you want to be tracking it and you can refine it. To refine your pricing, you need to track that every job. You want to know the actual labor that you're using. Did you estimate that a job was going to take 8 hours, but it actually took 10? That matters. Are your crews using their time wisely? Or is there wasted motion, poor routing on your part, or unpreparedness on their part? And is a job truly profitable? After labor and materials and overhead, did the job hit your target margin? I once had a mulch installation job that I thought was profitable. We quoted it based on 5 hours with two crew members, but by the time we got to the site, dealt with unexpected slope issues, and cleaned up, it took 8 hours. That's an extra 6 paid hours for those two people, right? 3 hours times two that I hadn't accounted for, and it wiped out all my profit. And I actually had to take a little bit of money out of the business to cover that. It was at a loss because we tracked it, we learned, and we adjusted for future estimates for similar jobs. When you track, you're going to discover inefficiencies. You're going to discover mispricing, and you're going to discover training or system issues that you need to work on with your crew. This is how you stop guessing. Tracking is how you stop guessing. You move from thinking, oh, I think we're making money, to I know exactly where we're profitable and where we're not. It's empowering and it changes how you run your business. I had a crew that consistently took 20% longer on hedge trimming jobs than I estimated every single time. But by tracking and reviewing that, I realized that they were missing a couple of key steps and the cleanup system. And just training them for an hour fixed the issue. It immediately improved all their job efficiency and the profitability on future jobs. If I wasn't tracking it, I wouldn't have known where the problem was. I just would have known I'm not making as much money as I think that I need to. Okay. So when you track, you're going to gain that data to refine your pricing. You're going to identify gaps that you can fix, and you're going to build a business that can scale without chaos. So now you've seen what it takes to set up your pricing that actually supports your business and why tracking it is key to making it stick. So let's recap what we've covered, and I'll show you the next steps if you want to put this into action. We've covered quite a bit in the last 32 minutes, and I want you to take a minute and tie it all together, because it's not about the numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about the life you're trying to build. If you price correctly, you're going to pay yourself reliably. You're not going to be living off scraps or hoping that there's something left at the end of the month. You're going to support your business's growth. You can start to plan on equipment upgrades, marketing, and hiring without fear. It's going to give you confidence to market and hire. I'm going to tell you, I've heard people say this to me so many times when I've helped them with their pricing. Dan, that price that you're giving me is so much higher than what I think I can get. You can get it. If you're marketing to the right people, if you have set up who your ideal client is, and you're reliable and you do quality work, people will pay your price. Will everybody pay your price? No, that's fine. You're going to get the people that will pay your price. And if they're paying your price, a higher price than what you're currently charging now, and you're confident in it, you're able to make more money doing less work. And it's going to end that cycle of being busy but broke. A lot of landscapers are busy, but busy is not going to pay your bills if your numbers are wrong. You didn't start your business to just work. You started it to build something that supports your family, gives you freedom, and allows you to live on your terms. Pricing is the foundation that makes that possible. For me, getting my pricing right was the turning point. I went from guessing, scraping by, and feeling burned out to paying myself a consistent salary, investing back into my business, and finally being able to take a vacation without worrying that everything would fall apart. Once I got my pricing right, I was able to start building my teams and the systems so that eventually I went out of country for 3 weeks and I only had to check in a couple of times. And when I checked in, there was one problem that had come up, and my guys were able to fix it. They just told me about it afterwards. So if you've been feeling stuck or you're tired or you're unsure if you're even cut out for running the business, I want you to know you're not the problem. I wasn't the problem. My pricing was. And it's something that you can fix. So figuring out your prices, you're going to calculate your annual overhead. You're going to determine your total production hours. You're going to add in the labor burden, and then you're going to incorporate the profit margin that you want into your price. So you've learned the what and the why, but the question is, what do you do with this? You've learned the basics of pricing correctly, but to actually implement it, track it, and refine it so that your business becomes profitable and scalable, you need tools, structure, and support. This is what I want to share with you next. You can figure this out on your own. I did, but it took a lot of work, a lot of stress, and a lot of reverse engineering to work the kinks out of the system. Doing it alone is going to take longer, takes a lot of guesswork, and potentially leaves you stuck in the busy but broke cycle over and over and over again. If you want to get there faster with clarity and confidence, you don't need to do it alone. I have a step-by-step program that I'm going to share with you now. I've created a program based on my over 20 years experience with my landscaping business that I've used with other landscapers to help them get profitable as well. What do you get? You're going to get a copy of my profit-powered pricing calculator. It's going to allow you to figure out your overhead, your labor burden, your production hours, and put together a price with your profit built in at the margin that you want. On top of that, it's got a calculator in it to help you generate the pricing that you need for the lawns that you are bidding, as well as tracking all the jobs you're doing so that you can update your production hours, know what your efficiencies are, and even if your crews or you are making a profit in every day's worth of work. I'm not just going to give you that calculator and throw you to the wolves. I'm going to give you guided lessons on how to get each of those numbers, as well as how to track them and continue to improve and refine your business. Those templates and trackers also come with accountability with me, as well as ongoing support to help you improve your system. If you're ready to stop guessing and build a profitable business, then this is the program for you. The program's cost with everything that I mentioned is $347. That can be made up by your business within just the first or even second job that you actually price profitably. If you're ready to enroll, you can click on the link in the comments section to this video. I've given you the basics to be able to profitably price your business. These are the same principles that businesses have been using for centuries. If you're ready to stop guessing, if you're ready to feel less stressed, if you're ready to feel like you actually own a business instead of it owning you, then this is a program for you. I look forward to seeing you there. Take care.